My husband admitted to a 3-month affair while I was pregnant, but his mistress called me later revealing it actually started 8 months ago at a work conference and he never quit his job like he claimed, so I increased my divorce demands while his parents tried to sue me for grandparent rights. I am Mila, 29F, and my husband is Joseph, 32M. We have been together for 6 years total, married for 3 of those years. Until last Tuesday, I thought we had a solid marriage. We owned a decent house in the suburbs, both had stable jobs, and were about to become parents. I work as a graphic designer for a marketing firm and he works in project management at a tech company. We met through mutual friends at a barbecue and got engaged after 2 years of dating. The wedding was small, just family and close friends, exactly what we both wanted. The pregnancy was planned. We had talked about starting a family and decided last year was the right time. The first trimester was rough on me. I had morning sickness that lasted all day and could barely keep food down. Joseph was supportive during that time. He would make me ginger tea and keep crackers by the bedside. The second trimester was better. I had more energy and we started preparing the nursery together. We painted it a soft yellow because we wanted to keep the gender a surprise until birth. The third trimester hit me harder than I expected. My back ached constantly and I could not sleep well because of the size of my belly. I was also stressed about work deadlines and trying to finish projects before my maternity leave started. Joseph and I argued more during this time. Small things mostly. He would forget to pick up groceries I had asked for or would stay late at work when I needed help assembling baby furniture. I snapped at him a few times when I was exhausted. He said I was being hormonal and I told him not to use that word. We never fought badly though. Just the usual bickering that happens when you are tired and stressed. Last Tuesday I was exactly 8 months and 3 weeks pregnant. My due date was less than 2 weeks away. I had taken the day off work because my feet were so swollen I could barely walk. I spent most of the afternoon on the couch reading a book about newborn sleep schedules. Joseph came home early from work around 4 in the afternoon. That was unusual because he normally worked until 6. He walked into the living room and sat down on the coffee table in front of me. His eyes were red and his hands were shaking. I put my book down and asked him what was wrong. He started crying before he said anything. I had never seen him cry like that before. Not even at his grandfather's funeral 2 years ago. He said he needed to tell me something and that he was sorry. Then he said he had been having an affair with a woman from his office named Layla. He said it started 3 months ago at a company happy hour. He said they had been sleeping together regularly since then. He said it happened because I had been difficult to be around during the pregnancy and he needed someone to talk to who understood him. I just sat there. I could not move or speak. It felt like someone had dumped ice water over my head. Joseph kept talking. He said he ended things with Layla 2 days ago. He said he told his boss yesterday and put in his resignation. He said he already applied to 3 other companies and expected to have interviews next week. He said he did all of this to prove he wanted to save our marriage. He said he wanted to be there for our baby. He said the decision about whether we stayed together was up to me now. I still did not say anything. I stood up and walked to our bedroom. Joseph followed me asking what I was doing. I pulled out my suitcase from the closet and started putting clothes in it. He grabbed my arm and asked me to please talk to him. I pulled my arm away and kept packing. He was crying and saying he made a mistake and that he loved me. I packed enough clothes for a week. Then I went to the bathroom and packed my toiletries. I called a taxi from my phone. Joseph was on his knees in the hallway begging me not to leave. He said we should talk about it. He said we should think about the baby. The taxi arrived 15 minutes later. I walked out of the house with my suitcase and got in the taxi. Joseph stood in the driveway watching me leave. I went to my parents' house. They live about 30 minutes away in a different suburb. My mother answered the door and immediately knew something was wrong. I told her and my father what happened. My father wanted to drive to our house and confront Joseph. My mother stopped him. She made up the guest room for me and brought me tea. I stayed in that room for the rest of the night. I could hear my parents talking in the kitchen but could not make out what they were saying. The next morning my mother asked me what I wanted to do. I said I did not know yet. She said I could stay with them as long as I needed. My father was less patient. He said Joseph was a coward for doing this while I was pregnant. He said I deserved better. I agreed with him but I still could not think clearly about what came next. Joseph started texting me that afternoon. He sent 20 messages in a row. He said he was sorry. He said he knew he messed up. He said he would do anything to fix it. He said I should think about our baby growing up in a broken home. He said we owed it to our child to try to work it out. I did not respond to any of the messages. I spent 3 days at my parents' house thinking. Part of me wondered if I should try to forgive him for the sake of the baby. I imagined what it would be like to raise a child alone. I thought about custody arrangements and holidays split between 2 houses. I thought about our child asking why mommy and daddy did not live together anymore. But then I thought about looking at Joseph every day knowing what he did. I thought about the nights he said he was working late when he was actually with her. I thought about him coming home and getting into bed next to me after being with another woman. I thought about whether I could ever trust him again. The answer was no. On Saturday morning I told my parents I wanted a divorce. My father said he would help me find a lawyer. My mother hugged me and said she was proud of me for making a decision. We found a family lawyer through a friend's recommendation. I called his office Monday morning and scheduled a consultation for Tuesday afternoon. The lawyer's name was Owen. He was in his 50s and had been practicing family law for 20 years. I explained the situation to him. He said I had grounds for divorce based on adultery. He said we could file immediately. He asked about assets and I told him we owned the house jointly and had a shared savings account. He said we would need to divide everything. He asked about my income and Joseph's income to calculate potential child support. I signed the papers that day. Owen said he would have Joseph served within 48 hours. I paid the retainer fee from my personal savings account. My parents offered to help with legal costs, but I wanted to do this myself. Joseph was served at work on Thursday. He texted me immediately. He said he could not believe I actually filed for divorce. He said he thought we would work it out. He said this was not what he wanted. I did not respond. Then his mother called me. Her name is Madison and we had always gotten along well before this. She said I was making a huge mistake. She said marriages go through rough patches and people make mistakes. She said I was being selfish by not thinking about the baby. She said her son loved me and I was throwing away a family over one mistake. I told her it was not her business and hung up. Joseph's father called an hour later. His name is Richard. He was less polite than Madison. He said I was ruining his son's life. He said I was using the baby to get money from Joseph. He said I was a bad wife for not standing by my husband. He said I would regret this decision. I hung up on him too. Joseph sent me an email that night. It was long. He said he understood I was hurt but that love should be enough to get past this. He said we had built a life together and I was destroying it. He said he made one mistake in 6 years and I was punishing him too harshly. He said our child deserved to have both parents in the same home. He said I was being stubborn and prideful. He said if I really loved him I would find a way to forgive him. I read the email twice. Then I closed my laptop. I did not respond. My due date was in 5 days. I had a doctor's appointment scheduled for Friday morning to check if the baby was in position. My mother drove me to the appointment. The doctor said everything looked good and I could go into labor any day now. She asked if the baby's father would be present at the birth. I said yes because despite everything I knew Joseph should be there when his child was born. That weekend Joseph's parents tried calling again. I did not answer. They sent text messages saying they were disappointed in me. They said they raised their son better than this and I was not giving him a chance to prove himself. They said I was going to make their grandchild suffer. I blocked both of their numbers. Joseph and I had not spoken directly since I left the house. All communication went through text messages and he was still trying to convince me to drop the divorce. Part of me wondered if I was making the right choice. Part of me wondered if I should give him another chance. But every time I thought about taking him back I remembered him sitting on that coffee table telling me he slept with someone else for 3 months while I carried his child. My water broke on Monday morning at 6 a.m. I was in the kitchen making breakfast when it happened. My mother heard me gasp and came running. She grabbed my hospital bag that I had packed 2 weeks earlier and helped me to the car. My father drove us to the hospital. The contractions started in the car and they were stronger than I expected. We got to the hospital and I was admitted to a delivery room. The nurse checked my dilation and said I was at 4 centimeters. She said it would be a while before the baby came. My mother asked if I wanted her to call Joseph. I said yes. He arrived at the hospital within an hour. He must have driven fast because he worked 40 minutes away. He came into the delivery room and asked how I was doing. I said the contractions were getting stronger. He sat in the chair next to my bed. My parents stayed in the waiting room. Labor lasted 14 hours. The pain was worse than anything I had experienced before. Joseph held my hand when I asked him to. He got the nurse when I needed more ice chips. He did not try to talk about the divorce or the affair. He just stayed there. Our son was born at 8:17 p.m. He weighed 7 pounds and 9 ounces. The nurse cleaned him and wrapped him in a blanket and handed him to me. He had Joseph's nose in my eyes. Joseph was crying again when he looked at the baby. He asked if he could hold him and I said yes. The nurse moved me to a recovery room around 10 p.m. Joseph asked if he could stay the night and I said he could. My parents came in to see the baby and then went home. Joseph slept in the chair next to my bed. The next morning the baby was sleeping in the bassinet next to me. Joseph was awake. He said we needed to talk. I said okay. He said becoming a father made him realize how much he loved me and how badly he messed up. He said seeing our son made him understand what really mattered in life. He said he wanted to drop the divorce and start over. He said he would spend the rest of his life making it up to me. I looked at him and said that if he really loved me he would not fight me on the divorce. I said if he really cared about our son he would make the custody arrangements as easy as possible. I said actions mattered more than words and his actions showed me who he was. He stared at me for a long time. Then he nodded. He said he would not contest the divorce. He asked about custody and I said we could work out a schedule through our lawyers. He asked if he could visit the baby and I said yes. Then he left the hospital. I stayed in the hospital for 2 more days. Joseph came back once to see the baby before I was discharged. He did not try to talk me out of the divorce again. When I left the hospital, I went back to my parents' house with the baby. Joseph texted asking when he could see his son, and I told him he could come over the next day. That is where things are now. The baby is 1 week old. Joseph has been coming over every other day to spend time with him. The divorce is moving forward. Joseph's lawyer contacted my lawyer and said Joseph would not contest anything except the child support amount. He thinks the number my lawyer proposed is too high. We are working through that now. Joseph's parents created a new email address to contact me after I blocked their numbers. They sent a message saying they were hurt that they were not included in the birth. They said I was keeping their grandson from them. I have not responded. I am still at my parents' house. I have not gone back to our house yet. I will need to eventually to get the rest of my things, but I am not ready for that. The baby keeps me busy enough that I do not have time to think about Joseph much during the day. At night it is harder. I lie in bed and wonder if I did the right thing. Then I remember that he blamed me for his affair, and I know I made the right choice. That is my situation. I do not know what happens next. I just know I cannot go back to him. Not after what he did. Not after he made me feel like it was my fault for being difficult during pregnancy. I am doing this on my own now, and I will figure it out as I go. Update 1: I was not planning to write an update this soon, but things have happened and I need to get them out. The baby is almost 4 weeks old now. He is healthy and eating well. He does not sleep much at night, which means I do not sleep much either, but that is normal for newborns. My mother has been helping me during the day while my father is at work. She watches him while I shower or try to nap. I do not know what I would do without them. Joseph has been coming over to my parents' house 3 times a week to see the baby. The visits are awkward. He sits in the living room and holds his son while my parents stay in other rooms. We do not talk much beyond logistics about diapers and feeding times. He asks how I am doing and I say fine. He tries to make small talk about the weather or news and I give short answers. After an hour or so he leaves. Last week he asked if he could take the baby to his apartment for a visit. He moved out of our house into a 1-bedroom place closer to his work. I said no. The baby is too young to be away from me for extended periods. Joseph said he is the father and has rights. I said we would discuss longer visits when the baby is older. He did not push it further. The divorce paperwork is moving slowly. There have been arguments about money. Joseph thinks the child support amount is unfair. His lawyer sent a letter saying Joseph should not have to pay as much as my lawyer requested because I am living with my parents rent-free. My lawyer responded saying my living situation is temporary and does not change Joseph's obligation to support his child. They are still going back and forth on the exact number. We also need to divide the house and our savings. Joseph wants to keep the house. He said he can afford the mortgage on his own and buying me out of my half. My lawyer is reviewing the offer. Part of me wants to just agree to everything so this can be over faster. Another part of me knows I should not let him off easy after what he did. Joseph's parents are still trying to contact me. They sent 3 more emails from different addresses asking to see their grandson. The messages have gotten more aggressive. The last one said I had no right to keep a grandchild from his grandparents. It said they could take legal action if I continued to deny them access. I forwarded the emails to my lawyer. He said grandparents do not have automatic visitation rights, but they could petition the court. He said it was unlikely to go anywhere, but we should be prepared. 2 weeks ago I got a phone call from an unknown number. I answered because I thought it might be related to the baby or the divorce. It was Layla, the woman Joseph had the affair with. She said she got my number from Joseph's phone when they were still together. She said she was calling because she felt I deserved to know the truth. I asked her what truth. She said Joseph lied to me about how the affair started and when it ended. According to Layla, they did not meet at a company happy hour 3 months ago. They met at a work conference 8 months ago when I was in my first trimester. She said they slept together that first night in his hotel room. She said they continued seeing each other after the conference whenever they could. She said it was not just physical. They went on dates. He bought her gifts. He told her he was unhappy in his marriage and thinking about leaving me. I asked her why she was telling me this now. She said because Joseph called her last week trying to get back together. He told her the divorce was almost final and he would be free soon. He said they could be together properly this time without hiding. She said she told him no because she realized during their time apart that he was a liar who would cheat on anyone. She said she wanted me to know what kind of person he really was. I thanked her for calling and hung up. Then I sat on my bed staring at the wall for 20 minutes. My mother knocked on the door and asked if I was okay. I told her what Layla said. My mother said some choice words about Joseph that I will not repeat here. I called my lawyer immediately. I told him what Layla told me. He said this changes things. If Joseph lied about the timeline of the affair, it affects the divorce proceedings. He said we might be able to use this to get a better settlement. He asked if Layla would be willing to provide a written statement. I said I would ask her. I called Layla back. She agreed to write down everything she told me and send it to my lawyer. She said she had text messages and emails from Joseph that proved they were together longer than he admitted. She said she would provide those too. I asked her why she was helping me. She said because Joseph deserved to face consequences for lying to everyone. When Joseph came over for his next visit, I did not say anything about Layla's call. I wanted to talk to my lawyer first about how to handle it. Joseph acted normal. He held the baby and asked about his feeding schedule. He commented that the baby looked more like him every day. He tried to make a joke about hoping the baby got my personality instead of his. I did not laugh. After Joseph left, I texted him and said we needed to talk about something important related to the divorce. He called me right away asking what was wrong. I said not over the phone. I said we needed to meet in person. He said he could come back over, but I said no. I said we should meet at a coffee shop. Neutral ground. He agreed. We met yesterday afternoon at a coffee shop halfway between my parents' house and his apartment. I left the baby with my mother. Joseph was already there when I arrived. He had ordered himself a coffee but did not get me anything. I sat down across from him. I said I spoke with Layla. His face went white. I said she told me the affair started 8 months ago, not 3 months ago. I said she told me about the work conference and the hotel room. I said she told me he was planning to leave me before I even knew there was a problem. Joseph started to deny it. He said Layla was lying. He said she was bitter because he ended things with her. I said Layla had proof. Text messages and emails. I said she was giving a statement to my lawyer. Joseph put his head in his hands. Then he admitted it. He said yes, it started at the conference. He said he panicked when he confessed to me and did not want to make it sound worse than it already was. He said he thought telling me it was only 3 months would be easier for me to hear than 8 months. I asked him if he actually resigned from his job. He said no. He said he told his boss about the affair, but his boss did not care as long as it did not affect work. He said he got a promotion 2 weeks after I left him. I stood up to leave. Joseph grabbed my wrist and asked me to wait. I pulled my hand away. He said he knows he lied, but it does not change the fact that he wants to fix things. He said he still loves me and wants us to be a family. I told him we would never be a family again. I told him he should expect my lawyer to contact his lawyer with updated demands. Then I left. I drove back to my parents' house. My hands were shaking the entire drive. When I got inside, my mother took one look at me and asked what happened. I told her everything Joseph admitted. She said I should increase the child support amount and take him for everything he has. My father agreed. My lawyer called me this morning. He reviewed Layla's statement and the evidence she provided. He said we have a strong case now. He said we can push for a higher child support payment and a better split of assets. He said Joseph's lawyer will probably try to settle quickly to avoid this going to trial where everything would become public record. I told him to do whatever he thinks is best. I am tired of dealing with this. I just want it to be over so I can move on with my life and raise my son. Joseph has texted me 5 times since yesterday asking me to reconsider. He said he knows he made mistakes, but he is trying to be better. He said he will agree to anything I want if I just give him another chance. I have not responded to any of the messages. His parents somehow found out about the meeting at the coffee shop. I do not know if Joseph told them or if they have been monitoring my social media. They sent another email saying I was being vindictive and cruel. They said I was using the baby as a weapon against Joseph. They said they were going to file for grandparent visitation rights. I forwarded the email to my lawyer. The baby is crying now, so I need to go. I will update again when the divorce is finalized or if anything else happens. Update 2: the divorce was finalized 3 weeks ago. It took longer than I expected because Joseph kept trying to negotiate the terms even after his lawyer advised him to settle. Eventually his lawyer convinced him that fighting was only costing him more in legal fees. The final settlement included a child support payment that was higher than what Joseph wanted but lower than what my lawyer initially asked for. I got my half of the house value. Joseph is selling the house because he cannot afford the mortgage and the buyout payment on his own. Our savings account was split 50-50. I also got my car and he kept his. Joseph has visitation with the baby every Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. He picks him up from my parents' house and brings him back at the end of the day. I was nervous the first time he took the baby without me, but I had to accept that Joseph is the father and has a right to spend time with his son. I moved out of my parents' house last month. I found a 2-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood about 20 minutes from where they live. It is smaller than the house Joseph and I had, but it is mine. I can afford the rent with my salary and the child support. My parents helped me move and bought me furniture for the baby's room. Going back to work was harder than I thought it would be. My maternity leave ended and I returned to the marketing firm 6 weeks ago. I had to find a daycare for the baby. The one near my apartment had good reviews and reasonable rates. Dropping him off the first day was difficult. He cried when I left and I almost turned around to take him home. But I got through it. Now it is part of our routine. Joseph's parents filed for grandparent visitation rights 2 weeks after the divorce was finalized. My lawyer was not surprised. He said they had threatened it enough times that it was inevitable. We went to a hearing last week. Their lawyer argued that they have a relationship with their grandson and denying them access is harmful to the child. My lawyer argued that they harassed me throughout my pregnancy and the divorce and that their presence would be disruptive. The judge asked me if I had any objection to the grandparents seeing the baby under supervised conditions. I said I would allow it if they apologized for their behavior and agreed to be respectful going forward. Joseph's parents refused to apologize. They said they did nothing wrong. The judge said he would not order visitation without an agreement from both parties. He suggested mediation. I said I would consider it. After the hearing, Joseph's mother approached me in the hallway. She said I was a terrible mother for keeping her grandson from her. She said I was poisoning the baby against his father's family. She said I would regret this when the baby grew up and realized what I did. I walked away without responding. Joseph has been asking to adjust the custody schedule. He wants the baby overnight on weekends instead of just during the day. I said the baby is still too young for overnight visits away from me. Joseph said the baby is almost 4 months old and perfectly capable of sleeping somewhere else. I said we could revisit it when he is 6 months old. Joseph accused me of being controlling and using the baby to punish him. I ended the conversation. 3 weeks ago, Joseph called me on a Tuesday night. That was unusual because we only communicate about logistics and never after the baby is in bed. I answered because I thought something might be wrong. He said he needed to tell me something and he did not want me to hear it from someone else. He said he is seeing someone. He said it is not Layla. He said it is someone new he met through a dating app. He said they have been together for a month and it is getting serious. He said she knows about the baby and is fine with it. He said he wants to introduce her to his son soon. I asked him why he was telling me this. He said because the custody agreement requires him to inform me about anyone who will be around the baby. I said fine. He asked if I had any questions about her. I said no. He asked if I was seeing anyone. I said that was none of his business. He got quiet and then said he hoped I was happy. I hung up. I was not expecting to feel anything when Joseph told me he was dating someone. But I did feel something. Not jealousy exactly. More like annoyance that he moved on so quickly while I'm still trying to figure out how to be a single mother. But the feeling passed after a few hours and I realized I do not care who Joseph dates as long as that person is not a danger to my son. Joseph brought his girlfriend to pick up the baby last Saturday. Her name is Michelle. She is younger than me by a few years. She was friendly and tried to make conversation. She said she heard a lot about me and was looking forward to meeting me. I said hello and handed Joseph the diaper bag. Michelle said my son was beautiful and she could not wait to spend the day with him. I said thank you and went back inside. My mother asked me later if I was okay with Joseph having a girlfriend around the baby so soon. I said I did not have a choice. The custody agreement allows Joseph to have other people around during his parenting time as long as they are not a danger. My mother said Michelle seemed nice enough but you never really know someone. I agreed. The baby is growing fast. He smiles now and makes noises that sound almost like laughing. He recognizes my face and reaches for me when I come home from work. Those moments make everything else worth it. The sleepless nights and the stress and the loneliness all fade when he looks at me like I am his whole world. Work has been difficult. My boss has been understanding about me leaving early sometimes when the daycare calls saying the baby is sick. But I can tell it is frustrating for her. I have missed 2 important client meetings because of childcare issues. I am worried about my job security. I have been thinking about what comes next for me. I cannot stay at the marketing firm forever if they are going to hold my parenting responsibilities against me. I have been considering going freelance. I could work from home and set my own hours. It would be risky because income would not be guaranteed, but I have some savings and the child support provides a cushion. Last week I told my boss I was giving my 2 weeks notice. She was surprised. She asked if it was because of the flexibility issues. I said partly. I also said I wanted to try working for myself. She wished me luck and said she would give me a good reference if I needed one. I have already reached out to some of my contacts from previous jobs to let them know I am available for freelance work. I got responses from 3 companies interested in ongoing projects. It is not enough to replace my full salary yet, but it is a start. Joseph found out I quit my job through mutual friends. He texted me asking if I was okay financially. I said I was fine. He said he was worried because child support is calculated based on our incomes at the time of the divorce and if my income drops he might need to pay more. I said my income was not dropping. He said he was just checking. I did not respond after that. Joseph's parents sent another email last week. This time they offered to drop the grandparent visitation case if I agreed to let them see the baby once a month at Joseph's apartment while he is there. They said this was their final offer and if I refused they would continue pursuing legal action. I talked to my lawyer. He said it was a reasonable compromise. He said going back to court would cost more money and the outcome was not guaranteed. He said I should consider accepting the offer. I thought about it for a few days. Finally, I agreed. I sent an email to Joseph's parents saying I would allow monthly visits at Joseph's apartment as long as they were respectful and did not badmouth me in front of the baby. They responded saying they accepted the terms. The first visit is scheduled for this weekend. I do not know if I made the right decision about the grandparents. Part of me thinks I should have stood firm and not given in to their demands. Part of me thinks letting them see the baby is the mature thing to do even if they do not deserve it. I guess I will find out how it goes. My life now is different from what I imagined it would be 6 months ago. I thought I would be married with a newborn and going back to work after maternity leave with my husband supporting me. Instead, I am divorced, living alone with a baby, and starting a freelance career with no guarantees. But I am managing. The baby is healthy and I am paying my bills and I am not crying every night anymore. That feels like progress. Update 3. It has been a while since my last update. A lot has happened and I wanted to wait until things settled before writing again. The freelance work took off faster than I expected. Within 2 months of leaving my job at the marketing firm, I had enough projects to match my previous salary. Within 4 months I was making more than I did before. I work from home while the baby naps or plays in his bouncer next to my desk. When I have video calls with clients, I make sure his toys are out of frame. So far no one has complained about my setup. I was able to move to a bigger apartment last month. It has 3 bedrooms instead of 2. One for me, one for the baby, and one I turned into an office. The rent is higher but I can afford it now. My parents helped me move again. My father joked that I should stay in this place for a while because he was getting too old to carry boxes upstairs. The monthly visits with Joseph's parents have been going as well as can be expected. They see the baby at Joseph's apartment on the first Saturday of every month. Joseph sends me photos during the visits. His parents hold the baby and play with him. They bought him toys and clothes. They have not contacted me directly since we agreed to the arrangement. I consider that a success. Joseph and Michelle are still together. She is around during his weekend custody time. The baby seems comfortable with her based on what Joseph tells me. Part of me was worried about another woman being involved in my son's life, but Michelle has been respectful. She does not try to act like a mother to him. She just helps Joseph with basic childcare tasks. 2 months ago Joseph asked again about overnight visits. The baby was 6 months old by then, so I agreed. The first overnight visit was hard for me. I dropped the baby off at Joseph's apartment on Saturday morning and did not see him until Sunday afternoon. I spent Saturday night walking around my apartment checking my phone every 10 minutes to see if Joseph had texted about a problem. There were no problems. The baby slept fine according to Joseph. Now overnight visits happen every other weekend. Joseph picks up the baby Saturday morning and brings him back Sunday evening. It gives me time to work on bigger projects or clean the apartment or just sleep. I have started to appreciate having the time to myself even though I miss the baby when he is gone. Last month something unexpected happened. I got an email from a company I had done freelance work for asking if I wanted to come in for a meeting. The company makes educational apps for children. They wanted to discuss a partnership. I met with their CEO and marketing director. They offered me a contract to handle all their graphic design and branding for the next year. The pay was significant. More than I made at the marketing firm and more than I was making from freelance projects combined. I accepted the offer. It means I have stable income for the next 12 months and can plan ahead instead of constantly looking for new projects. The work is interesting. I design characters and interfaces for learning apps. The company is flexible about my schedule as long as I meet deadlines. My parents have been asking if I am dating anyone. I said no. They said I should get out more and meet people. I said I am busy with work and the baby. My mother said I am only 30 and should not give up on finding someone. I told her I am not giving up on anything. I am just focused on other things right now. Joseph's relationship with Michelle seems serious. He told me last month that she moved into his apartment. I asked if this affected his custody arrangement. He said no. I asked if the baby would have his own room at the apartment now that Michelle was living there. Joseph said the baby already had his own room. I did not know that. Joseph said he set it up months ago but did not mention it because he did not want me to think he was pushing for more custody time. The conversation made me realize how little Joseph and I communicate beyond the minimum required for co-parenting. We exchange information about the baby's schedule and health but nothing personal. I do not know details about his life and he does not know details about mine. I think that is how it should be. Joseph's parents asked if they could increase their visits to twice a month. I said no. Once a month is what we agreed to and I am not changing it. They did not push back. I think they realized that having some access is better than having none. The baby is 10 months old now. He is crawling and pulling himself up on furniture. He says mama and dada. He laughs at silly faces and loves playing with blocks. When Joseph drops him off after visits, the baby reaches for me and I pick him up and he rests his head on my shoulder. Those moments remind me why I left. Why I filed for divorce instead of staying in a broken marriage. My son deserves to see his mother as someone who stands up for herself. Not someone who accepts being treated badly because it is easier than leaving. I am not going to say I am happy with how everything turned out. I did not want to be a single mother. I did not want my son to grow up in 2 different homes. I did not want to split holidays and birthdays and milestones between 2 parents who are not together. But this is the reality and I have accepted it. Work is stable. The baby is healthy. I have my own place and can pay my bills. I have my parents nearby for support. Joseph is involved in his son's life and pays child support on time. His parents see their grandson regularly. Michelle seems like a decent person who is not trying to replace me. There is no dramatic ending to this story. No reconciliation or revenge or major revelation. Just everyday life as a single working mother doing her best. Some days are hard. Some days I am so tired I can barely function. But I get through them. I do not regret leaving Joseph. I do not forgive him for the affair or the lies. But I am not angry anymore. Anger takes energy I do not have to spare. I am focused on building a good life for me and my son. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2. I brought my atheist boyfriend to meet my parents for the first time, and he deliberately disrespected our family prayer. When I broke up with him, his only response was whatever. I grew up in a moderately religious family. We went to church on major holidays and some Sundays, maybe 10 to 15 times a year total. My parents taught me to respect traditions and be polite. At 19, I still believe in God but wouldn't call myself super religious. I attend church occasionally with my family, mostly on holidays or when my mom asks me to join them. 3 months ago, I met Tyler, 21M, at a campus event. He was studying computer science and had this confident way about him that caught my attention. Tyler mentioned early on that he was an atheist, but I didn't think much of it. My best friend Lillian dates a guy who's agnostic, and they get along fine. I figured since I'm not extremely religious myself, it wouldn't be an issue between us. Tyler and I hit it off right away. He was tall with dark hair and these striking blue eyes that seemed to look right through you. When he talked about coding or his favorite sci-fi shows, his face lit up with enthusiasm. We went on several dates, coffee shops, movie nights, walks around campus. He made me laugh with his impressions of our calculus professor and always texted to make sure I got home safely. Things were going well. After dating for almost 3 months, my mom invited us over for Sunday dinner. This would be the first time Tyler met my parents, and I felt nervous about it. My parents are traditional people who value manners and respect. I told Tyler a little about them beforehand. My dad works as an accountant, my mom teaches elementary school, and they've been married for 25 years. I mentioned that we typically say a blessing before meals but tried to keep it casual so Tyler wouldn't feel uncomfortable. The day of the dinner arrived. I picked Tyler up from his apartment, and he looked nice in a button-up shirt and jeans. On the drive over, he asked about my childhood home and what kind of food my mom was making. When we arrived, my parents greeted us at the door. Mom hugged me and shook Tyler's hand, while Dad gave him a firm handshake and asked about his studies. We sat in the living room making small talk. Tyler told my parents about his classes and mentioned he was looking for a summer internship. Mom shared stories about her students, and Dad talked about the garden he started this spring. Everything seemed relaxed and normal. My mom asked about Tyler's family, and he explained that his parents lived in Colorado and that he had an older sister who worked as a nurse. The conversation flowed easily, and I started to relax. When Mom announced dinner was ready, we moved to the dining room. The table looked nice with the plates my grandmother had given my parents as a wedding gift. Mom had made pot roast with potatoes and carrots, rolls, and a salad. We all sat down, and I glanced at Tyler with a reassuring smile. As expected, my dad cleared his throat and said we would say the blessing. Everyone bowed their heads, including me. Dad began to thank God for the food and for bringing Tyler into our home. It was a standard blessing, nothing extreme or lengthy. About halfway through the blessing, I heard the ice in a glass clinking. From the corner of my eye, I saw Tyler pick up his water glass. At first, I thought maybe he was just taking a sip, which would have been a little awkward but not terrible. Instead, he tilted his head back and gulped the entire glass of water down in one go. The sound of his gulping was loud in the quiet room. Just as Dad was finishing the blessing with amen, Tyler put his glass down and let out the loudest, most deliberate burp I had ever heard. It wasn't a small burp that slipped out accidentally. This was an open-mouthed, exaggerated burp that echoed in the dining room. Dad stopped mid-word and looked up. His fork hovered above his plate, and his mouth hung open in shock. Mom's eyes widened, and she glanced at me with a look that clearly asked what was happening. An uncomfortable silence filled the room as everyone processed what had just occurred. Tyler didn't say excuse me. He didn't look embarrassed. He just reached for the rolls as if nothing unusual had happened. Dad awkwardly finished saying amen, and Mom quickly passed the salad bowl, trying to move past the moment. The atmosphere had completely changed. My parents, normally talkative and welcoming, became quiet and reserved. They asked Tyler basic questions about school and the weather, but their smiles looked forced, and they avoided eye contact with him. I kept waiting for Tyler to apologize or acknowledge what he had done, but he continued eating and talking as if everything was normal. He even asked for seconds of the pot roast. My stomach felt tight, and I barely touched my food. After what felt like the longest dinner of my life, I mentioned that I had an early class the next day and should probably get going. My parents nodded a little too eagerly. Mom packed up some leftover pot roast for me to take, avoiding conversation with Tyler as she did so. Dad shook Tyler's hand goodbye, but his usual warm smile was noticeably absent. In the car, I waited until we were a few blocks from my parents' house before asking Tyler what his problem was. At first, he acted confused, as if he had no idea what I was talking about. When I specifically mentioned his behavior during the blessing, he scoffed. Tyler said he was thirsty and hungry. He added that as an atheist, he didn't have to participate in religious rituals or pretend to respect them. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told him it wasn't about religion, it was about basic manners and respect for my family and their own home. That's when Tyler really started going off. He said my family's traditions were ridiculous and outdated. He launched into a speech about how religion causes problems and how he refused to play along with superstitions just to make people comfortable. The more he talked, the more I realized how little I actually knew him. I dropped Tyler off at his apartment without saying much else. By that point, I was done with the relationship. His behavior showed a complete lack of respect not just for my family's beliefs but for me as well. The next day, Tyler texted asking if I was still upset about the dinner thing. He added that if I was going to date an atheist, I shouldn't expect him to play along with religious stuff. That comment bothered me the most. I never asked him to pray or believe anything. All I expected was basic courtesy, the same I would show to anyone's family traditions, religious or not. This made me wonder if my cousin Lisa was right. Last month, when I mentioned dating Tyler, she warned me that dating someone with completely different beliefs might cause problems. I brushed her off, thinking my moderate approach to religion would make it a non-issue. Now I'm not so sure. So here's my question. Was I wrong to expect Tyler to respectfully sit through a brief blessing without making a scene? Would most atheists really act the way Tyler did, or is this just him being rude? I'm not asking anyone to change their beliefs, but I thought common courtesy was universal. Update 1. It's been a week since my original post, and I want to thank everyone for their responses. Reading through the comments made me realize that Tyler's behavior wasn't just mildly rude, it was completely unacceptable. Especially when so many atheists commented saying they would never dream of acting that way in someone else's home. After posting here, I took some time to think about my relationship with Tyler. The dinner incident kept replaying in my head, but other memories started surfacing too. Like the time we disagreed about a movie ending, and he spent 20 minutes explaining why my interpretation was objectively wrong. Or when he corrected my pronunciation of words in front of friends, then called it helping. Or how he dismissed my business major as easy compared to his computer science courses. These things bothered me at the time, but I brushed them off. Tyler was smart and confident, maybe I was being too sensitive? Plus, he was undeniably attractive with those blue eyes and that smile that made my roommate jealous. But looking back now, I see a pattern of arrogance that should have been obvious from the start. The day after posting here, I texted Tyler and told him I didn't think we should see each other anymore. I kept it simple and direct. His response? One word, whatever. No questions, no apology, no attempt to understand my perspective. Just whatever. That response confirmed everything I needed to know about his character. After breaking up with Tyler, I went to visit my parents. I felt I needed to apologize for bringing someone so disrespectful into their home. When I arrived, Mom was grading papers at the kitchen table, and Dad was watching a baseball game in the living room. I sat down with them and explained that Tyler and I had broken up. The look that passed between my parents spoke volumes. Mom put down her red pen and admitted they had been worried about me. Dad muted the TV and turned to face me fully, something he only does during serious conversations. They explained that after Tyler left that night, they spent hours discussing whether they should say something to me. They didn't want to interfere in my relationship, but they had never seen such blatant disrespect from anyone I'd brought home before. Mom mentioned that she noticed how Tyler talked over me several times during dinner, and Dad said he was concerned by how dismissive Tyler seemed of anything that wasn't about him. What surprised me most was learning that my quiet, non-confrontational father had almost said something to Tyler directly during dinner. Dad admitted he came close to addressing the burping incident immediately but held back because he didn't want to embarrass me. For my dad, who avoids conflict at all costs, this was significant. Mom hugged me and said she was proud that I recognized Tyler's behavior wasn't acceptable. Dad added that the right person would respect not just me but also the people and things I care about, whether they share those beliefs or not. After talking with my parents, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I hadn't realized how much Tyler's behavior and our subsequent breakup had been bothering me until I talked it through with them. The following week, I attended a study group for my marketing class. We met at the campus coffee shop, and one of the girls, Alicia, brought her roommate Rachel. During a break, the conversation drifted to bad dating experiences. Rachel mentioned a disaster date she'd had with a guy who spent the entire time talking about himself and criticizing the restaurant's menu as basic. When she said the guy's name was Tyler, my head snapped up. She described him, tall, dark hair, computer science major, and I knew immediately it was the same person. Rachel and I exchanged glances, and I blurted out that I had just broken up with him. The whole study group went silent before erupting into conversation. Rachel had gone on exactly one date with Tyler 3 months ago, right before he and I met. She described how he had spent the entire evening explaining why her major, English literature, was impractical and how the book she was reading was overrated. When she disagreed with his assessment, he interrupted her repeatedly and spoke to her as if she were a child. The worst part came when she mentioned she volunteered at an after-school program run by her church. Tyler had launched into a speech about religious organizations being fronts for indoctrination and questioned her intelligence for being involved with a church at all. Rachel ended the date early, and when Tyler texted the next day asking to see her again, she politely declined. Hearing Rachel's experience was like looking into a mirror. The similarities between our experiences with Tyler were uncanny. The arrogance, the dismissiveness, the lack of respect for differing opinions, it all fit the same pattern. But the timing of her story also confirmed something else. Tyler hadn't suddenly become rude or developed these traits during our relationship. This was who he had always been. I had simply missed or ignored the signs. After the study group, Rachel and I grabbed dinner together and shared more Tyler stories. We laughed about his pretentious coffee order, extra hot triple shot almond milk latte with exactly 3 ice cubes added after brewing, and his habit of correcting people's grammar mid-conversation. What had once been irritating now seemed almost comical when shared with someone who understood exactly what I'd experienced. Rachel mentioned that after her date with Tyler, she had run into him at a campus event with another girl. He had completely ignored her, pretending not to recognize her even when they made direct eye contact. I realized with a start that this must have happened shortly after Tyler and I began dating. The timeline suggested he might have started pursuing me while still trying to date Rachel, or at least before properly ending things with her. This revelation made me even more certain that breaking up with Tyler was the right decision. His disrespect wasn't limited to religious differences or table manners, it extended to how he viewed and treated people in general. As I drove home that night, I felt grateful for the Reddit community that had helped me see the situation clearly. Tyler's behavior at dinner wasn't about atheism versus religion. It was about basic respect and decency, qualities that transcend any differences in belief systems. The problem wasn't that Tyler and I had different beliefs. The problem was Tyler himself. Update 2. A month has passed since my last update, and I have another Tyler story to share that confirms I made the right decision by ending our relationship. Last weekend, I attended my cousin's wedding with my family. During the reception, I ended up sitting with my aunt's neighbor Melissa. She's about 25 and works as a physical therapist in the city. As we chatted about the wedding ceremony, she mentioned how her ex-boyfriend had ruined her experience at the last wedding they attended together. My ears perked up when she described this ex as a computer science student with an attitude problem. When she said his name was Tyler, I nearly choked on my champagne. What are the chances? I asked a few casual questions about his appearance and background, and sure enough, same Tyler. Melissa dated Tyler for about 4 months last year. She took him as her +1 to her best friend's wedding. According to Melissa, Tyler complained throughout the entire ceremony. He sighed loudly, checked his watch repeatedly, and whispered comments like "this is taking forever and do they really need all these speeches?" People sitting nearby kept turning to look at them, and Melissa felt mortified. When the ceremony finally ended, Melissa confronted Tyler about his behavior. Instead of apologizing, he argued that weddings were outdated rituals and that he shouldn't have to pretend to enjoy something so meaningless. They had a huge argument between the ceremony and reception. Tyler left in an Uber, and Melissa never heard from him again. As Melissa told her story, I noticed several wedding guests at our table nodding along sympathetically. One woman jumped in with her own story about an ex who had embarrassed her at a family funeral by playing games on his phone during the service. This led to a whole conversation about partners who couldn't respect important moments. I shared my dinner blessing story with the group. Melissa wasn't surprised at all. She mentioned that Tyler had a habit of making everything about him and his comfort, regardless of the situation or other people's feelings. She recalled a time when Tyler refused to attend her nephew's birthday party because he found children's parties boring and pointless. When she went without him, he sent multiple texts complaining that she was wasting her time. Hearing Melissa's experiences made me realize something important. Tyler's behavior followed a clear pattern across multiple relationships. This wasn't about religious differences or even about me. This was about a person who fundamentally lacked respect for others and their values. After the wedding, I looked back at the 3 months Tyler and I dated. There were so many red flags I had missed. Like how he would check his phone when I talked about my family. Or how he rolled his eyes when my roommate mentioned she was fasting for Ramadan. Or the time he loudly criticized the pointless traditions of a cultural festival we attended on campus. Every memory now appeared in a new light. What I had interpreted as Tyler being straightforward and honest was actually just rudeness masquerading as authenticity. What I had seen as confidence was actually arrogance. And what I had excused as differences in perspective was actually a fundamental lack of respect. The most telling part of Melissa's story wasn't Tyler's behavior at the wedding. It was what came after. The fact that he simply disappeared without attempting to resolve things or even acknowledge the hurt he caused showed his true character. It mirrored his whatever response to our breakup, a dismissal of someone else's feelings as unimportant compared to his own comfort and beliefs. One question kept coming up in conversations about Tyler: how did he manage to date so many people despite these obvious character flaws? Melissa and I reluctantly admitted the same thing: Tyler was extremely attractive. He had that effortless style and confidence that turned heads wherever he went. I remembered how my roommate had described him as model hot when she first met him, and how I had felt a little proud walking across campus with him. But good looks only get you so far. Eventually, a person's character reveals itself, and no amount of physical attractiveness can compensate for treating others poorly. The fact that Tyler had such a consistent pattern of short relationships followed by abrupt endings spoke volumes. After the wedding, I looked Tyler up on social media out of curiosity. His profile featured several new photos with another girl from our university, a freshman in the biology department. I felt a momentary urge to warn her about what she was getting into, but I decided against it. Some lessons we all need to learn for ourselves, and interfering would only make me look bitter. Instead, I decided to focus on moving forward. The whole Tyler experience taught me to pay more attention to how potential partners treat others, not just me, but servers at restaurants, my family members, people with different beliefs, and strangers. These behaviors reveal character in ways that attractive looks and charming first impressions cannot. Update 3: It's been 6 months since the infamous dinner incident with Tyler, and life has taken some interesting turns that I wanted to share. Last week, I ran into Tyler at the campus bookstore. He was with the same girl I had seen on his social media, the biology freshman. I noticed them before they saw me, giving me a chance to observe their interaction. Tyler was explaining something to her, using the same condescending tone he often used with me. She looked tired, nodding along while he gestured emphatically. When they finally noticed me, Tyler stiffened and quickly steered the girl toward the exit without acknowledging me. The girl glanced back with a confused expression, clearly wondering who I was. The encounter left me with mixed feelings. Part of me felt sorry for this new girlfriend who would likely experience the same disrespect I had. Another part felt immense relief that I was no longer in her position. The Tyler who had seemed so impressive just months ago now appeared small and predictable. Since breaking up with Tyler, I've focused on school and strengthening other relationships in my life. One unexpected development came from a comment Tyler made during our fight after the dinner, that religion never does anything good for the world. That comment stuck with me, not because I agreed, but because it challenged me to think about my own beliefs and actions. In response, I started volunteering at the food bank my church helps organize. Every Wednesday evening, I help sort donations and pack food boxes for local families. Last month, we provided meals for over 200 households. The work is simple but meaningful, checking expiration dates, organizing shelves, filling boxes with balanced meals. Nothing dramatic or world-changing, just steady work that makes a small difference in our community. Through the food bank, I met people from various backgrounds and beliefs, including several volunteers who identify as atheist or agnostic. One regular volunteer, Mark, told me he doesn't believe in God but believes deeply in helping others. We've had some fascinating conversations about ethics, community responsibility, and finding meaning. These talks have been respectful and thought-provoking, proof that people with different beliefs can work together and learn from each other when mutual respect exists. The contrast between these interactions and my experiences with Tyler couldn't be clearer. The difference wasn't about beliefs, it was about respect. Tyler used his atheism as an excuse for rudeness, while Mark and others demonstrate that different beliefs can coexist with kindness and consideration. My parents noticed the positive change in me over these months. Last Sunday, they invited me and a few of my friends over for dinner, including Rachel from my study group and a guy named Jason from the food bank volunteer team. Jason happens to be an atheist, which my parents know. When Dad said the blessing before dinner, Jason respectfully bowed his head. He didn't pray, but he showed simple courtesy for our family tradition. After dinner, Dad pulled me aside and mentioned how pleasant Jason was, a subtle but meaningful observation given our history with Tyler. I'm not dating anyone currently, and that feels right for now. The Tyler experience taught me to value respect and kindness above superficial traits like appearance or charm. It also helped me clarify my own values and boundaries. I know now that I can't compromise on basic respect, regardless of how attractive or intelligent someone might be. Some people might wonder if I've become bitter about relationships or developed a bias against atheists. The answer is no to both. If anything, I've gained clarity. I know that compatibility isn't about sharing identical beliefs, it's about mutual respect for differences. Tyler's problem wasn't his atheism, it was his arrogance and disregard for others. As for the question that started my original post, whether I was wrong to expect Tyler to sit respectfully through a brief blessing, the overwhelming consensus from commenters of all beliefs confirmed what I suspected. Basic courtesy is universal. Respecting others' traditions and customs in their homes is about human decency, not religious conformity. Looking back, I'm glad my relationship with Tyler ended when it did. The dinner incident, while uncomfortable, revealed his character before I invested more time in the relationship. Sometimes life's most valuable lessons come from uncomfortable experiences. So that's where things stand now: classes, volunteering, friends, and a better understanding of what matters in relationships. The dinner disaster ultimately led to positive growth, and for that unexpected outcome, I'm grateful.